We're into the siege. We've had the first parley. Schomberg wasn't bang into it. And now we're having another go at trying to beat the garrison into submission. I'm sure it wasn't raining like this then. There were lots of casualties amongst the people who were living inside the walls. This was the ordinary folk who weren't caught in the dispute at all, who would have been sympathetic to William, and many of them lost their lives. Said earlier on how a little drummer boy got over the walls and was able to report to Schomberg that some 30 Protestants had lost their lives inside the walls from the firing from the Williamite soldiers. So there's some retaliation from the walls and from the castle. Schomberg was well into his 70s when he arrived here, and he was very much a distinguished soldier. He was a German, though he had been a field marshal in the French army, and he left France after the Edict of Nantes. What was scrapped by Louis XIV and denied the right to the Huguenots to practice their faith. His mother was an English princess. But the years were catching up on him, and he wasn't as sharp or as agile as he once was. During one of the skirmishes, there was a Mr. Spring. He escaped from the castle as well, and he reported to Schomberg that many of the people inside were losing their lives because of the siege. We reckon that during the siege, there were about 150 on each side that lost their lives, and interestingly enough, there's nowhere in the records that indicates where the soldiers are buried or those who lost their lives. So that's 300 graves around about here. No one knows where they are. And you hear the band playing Lily Bolero. That's an ancient piece of music. And all you mothers who've got your wee babies, and you sing to them the Rockabye Baby on the Treetop. That's Rockabye Baby on the Treetop that you're hearing now. The song of the Home You Like of the Glorious Revolution. Rockabye Baby was the illegitimate son born to the King's wife that precipitated the movement of William and his troops from Holland to England. So very shortly we're going to have the townsfolk coming and making an appeal to Schomberg to silence the hostilities, to allow some discussion and some debate to take place. So when you think about that nursery rhyme, you can think of the words of it. When the bough breaks, that was the bough of the Stuart dynasty breaking. Down will come baby, cradle and all, and that's exactly what happened. The baby was the old pretender, the son of only Prince Charlie, who tried to retreat from the Throne of England in 1715 and 1745. Most nursery rhymes tell you a story of a period in the history of Rockabye Baby would be my favourite one. It says, Judas hunted James out of the street kingdoms. So, very shortly we'll be
Have you got an extra one?
having this appeal to end the hostilities. There were probably three discussions or three parleys. We covered the first one this morning when the Jacobite forces tried to here's
we have to take the house. I'm sorry, this is war. We have to take the house. Try these chapters. Take it under consideration.
So there you hear the appeal from a lady very distressed, worried about her children. And you see that Schomberg has reacted in a positive way and has issued an instruction to cease fire, only for a wee while, mind you. He has to get these boys out of the castle soon.
Yeah, they are.
It's real well.
So after a short break, the hostilities will begin again. And they're going to come back again and they're going to make a further appeal. So you probably heard that the Duke of Schomberg, being a passionate man, I think he's an old rascal. What do you think? Being a compassionate man, he has said he'll cease hostilities to see if the garrison will surrender. And ultimately that's what was going to happen anyway. The siege lasted 6 days, from Tuesday through to Sunday. My goodness, that's an awful smell. So there were several parleys or several discussions about surrender. And McCarthy Moore, the governor of the castle, who had taken over from Maxwell, who literally did a runner to Newry. And Maxwell actually, when he went to Belfast, there was about 500 Jacobite troops. And when Schomberg landed at Broomsport and was unloading the ships, he was right open to an attack, and subsequent to his arrival, Schomberg said that they were very vulnerable that first night, but Maxwell headed to Newry, and the garrison here were largely left isolated. So there were terms, and here they come. So here's this how reprobate McCarthy we were coming now. And this is where he's asking for terms of surrender. surrender document had about 10 or 8 articles in it, spelling out the terms of surrender. And you see the magnanimous gestures between the two. Wait to hear this, folk.
Give us good terms. An accepted surrender that the weapons. We are soldiers and we will not do that. The populace at the time seem to be rather stirred up by events, and we would not like the emergency point until we get their own basis. I would consider if you reverse your arms, you may come out with flag strong. Do you accept it? Do you accept that, sir? With honor? Yes. Hostages to you, I can see there too.
And of course, one of the hostages was Mer Dobbs, and he was returned as well. And the Jacobite forces were allowed to come out. But you know, despite what this man says, he wasn't too popular with the people inside the walls of Carrick. And in fact, when he came out, he had to be protected by Schomberg because the people were going to sort him out. And at one stage, Schomberg had to take his gun and his weapon out and march in amongst his own soldiers to tell them, hey, behave yourselves, give these boys a safe passage. And they made their way to Newry. And that ended the first battle, if you like, of the Williamite Wars on Irish soil. And they left here, as I've said, and marched to Newry with their bag and baggage and their flags on first, and they left this area. But of course, it wasn't finished, was it? Because what happened then was Sir Henry Inglesby. You may take yourself off, no problem. Sir Henry Inglesby was left in charge and in command of the castle and became the governor. Now, Schomberg, he then left Carrickfergus and he headed for Dundalk, and he set up his winter quarters in Dundalk, and that was a bit of a disaster because he lost most of his troops, and most of his troops, over half of his troops were lost through disease and starvation. They were camping on marshy ground in and around Dundalk and Carrickford, and the fact they had to sit in dead bodies, and that's how bad it was. And we know from some of the old manuscripts that across the water from where we are now, in a field of a man called Harrison near Hollywood, there's a mass grave of Williamite soldiers under the command of this man who he lost at Dundalk. Became known as the Dundalk, became known as the Dundalk Box, and they are buried. We know from the old manuscripts that a ship came round from Carrickford Lock into Belfast Lock, and the bodies were left or buried in that field of a man called Harrison, close to Maryfield. Well, Maryfield's where they were, close to Hollywood. And so, as I've said, that ended that part of the exercise. But William was very dissatisfied with what had happened, and he lost faith in his old friend and old Field Marshal, Schomberg. And he put together a massive army to come here to bring an end to the war in Ireland. And he arrived again, he sailed from High Lake in Chester, and he commanded a massive fleet. We are told again that when he arrived in Belfast Lock, there was something like 700 ships out there. He didn't leave with about 700, but we were told there were about 700 ships out there. We were told that they stretched from Kilroot, just on up the coast, to the White House. And they had every sort of weapon that was needed to fight a war. We are told that the chain of armoury that he brought here was something to behold. On his way from London up to Chester, the train was 25 miles long. These were all carts pulled by ox, and they made their way up to the Chester. They camped the night at Leaso's before embarking to come over to Ireland. And of course you all know the story of how William landed here on the 14th of July. That's the old date. And they brought to shore. Some very notable people came ashore here in Carrickfergus. Prince George of Denmark. Some of the old manuscripts would tell you that Prince George was his brother-in-law. I don't understand that, because William was an only son, and it certainly wasn't. Prince George certainly wasn't related to James, so I don't know where the son-in-law thing came from. But there was the Earl of Portland, the Earl of Oxford, the Earl of Manchester. All of these people came ashore here in Carrickfergus. And William didn't want to hang around here, because we know that when he came ashore, there was a gentleman from Mollusk, a Quaker called William Clark. And William Clark was delighted to see William as much as anybody. You see, William believed in civil and religious liberty. That was a reality in his life. He was a strong Calvinist. He wasn't a particularly good-looking man. He was in his younger days, but at 14 he had an attack of asthma that left him with his body was bent, and he was stooped over. He's quite a small man, and he probably had TB if it was known then that that's what the disease was. And we're told he had these piercing eyes and this Roman eagle nose. But he was a good soldier, and he liked being with his men. And he came, when the soldiers came ashore at White House, they had with them something like £250,000 in halfpennies and farthings to pay a lot of his troops that had been under the command of this man, who hadn't received pay for some time. They were camped around places like King's Moss, and that's where a lot of the Danish troops were, and they hadn't received pay for months. This man wasn't paying very well, you see, so they hadn't received pay for some months. So all that money was going to pay them, and that came ashore at White House. But all of his armour and equipment, a mobile home that he lived in, was designed by Sir Christopher Wren. He lived in that when he was with the soldiers, and that came ashore at White House as well. So very shortly, William, we hope, should be coming ashore, and we will continue on with that, because we have now ended this part of the proceedings, and we simply now await the arrival of King William, who will be attended by. He came off the yacht and was brought ashore in a rowboat, and he landed at the pier. One other monarchist came ashore in that same tower, and that's the present Queen, came ashore at that pier. William landed here at 3:30 in the afternoon. So we've got the timing right. Usually when we do the pageant, that's always at lunchtime. But we've got the timing right. It was about 3:30 in the afternoon. He looked around him, and he could see the greenery of the forest surrounding the monument. He was impressed. Someone offered the keys of the city, or of the town, to him. He declined. He said on a subsequent occasion that he hadn't come to Ireland to let the grass grow green under his feet. See, all these old expressions, they all come from some period in history. And there was William, he hadn't come to Ireland to let the grass grow green under his feet. So he wanted to get out of this place as quickly as possible. And when William Clark, that Quaker from Mollusk, threw his hat down in front of him and said, "Sir, thou art welcome to thy kingdom." And William, in his broken English, says, "Sir, thou art the best bred gentleman I have ever met." And William came up the quay, and he paraded up through the market, under the market street, and then out towards the west gate and on to Belfast. He was on a horse, and when he got to the White House, Schomberg had sent his coach and the Barbary horses to pick him up. And from there he went into Belfast. William, when he arrived in Belfast, had a look all around the old Belfast castle. He was impressed with the gardens. He liked gardens. Mary and William were impressed with gardens. They jointly designed a lot of the gardens at Hampton Court Palace. So they like the gardens. So here's Schomberg, here's McCarthy Moore and his soldiers, the Jacobites. You note the way the guns are turned round. That's them leaving Carrick Castle, and then of course the Sir Henry Inglesby's regiment then took over. Inglesby became the governor. So Schomberg wasn't too impressed with McCarthy Moore. Schomberg invited McCarthy Moore to have something to eat with him, and McCarthy Moore stayed with the soldiers, but Schomberg wasn't impressed with that. So Richard Dobbs was reinstated as mayor. Schomberg took him, McCarthy Moore took him as a hostage. He spent one night in the jail in the castle, and then he was into the cow jail. And he was able to keep all the paraphernalia that was required by a mayor at the time. So there's Schomberg and McCarthy Moore. They look like bosom pals or anything but. And they will all shortly go down the pier to Welcome William.
Yeah, you can drive over the day.
So we've now covered the
Turn around and watch.
arrival of Schomberg, about the entrenchments around the castle and the bombardment of the castle. We've talked about the damage done to the walls up at the top of the town, and the evidence is still there today. We've talked about that. There were about 3 parleys or discussions between the besieged and the besiegers before the terms, the 8 condition of terms that were presented to McCarthy Moore, and you heard McCarthy Moore accepting them, and he was allowed to march out, and how Schomberg had to intervene to stop him and his troops being manhandled by the people who lived there. So we've got that right up to date. The first big event of William's War in Ireland happened here in the borough, or in the town of Carrickfergus. So now we're going to take a brief break for half an hour, so that you will take the barriers away, and you can come in and you can talk to the soldiers, and you can look at the camp, you can look at the weapons, the guns. The boys will tell you all about them. The pikes, in fact, they themselves are quite interesting things, because they're not just something you can stuff into someone. They make you can use properly.